The Wake Island trailer and official announcement, community games fully detailed, the next Pacific map teased, and all the controversy surrounding Update 5.2. This is your week on the battlefield. Welcome to this episode of This Week on the Battlefield, the show where we cover news, updates, the community, and so much more, all around the Battlefield franchise. As per usual, there's much to cover, so let's jump straight into it. This week, of course, the big news is Update 5.2. If you want, frankly, a full overview of all of the changes made in this patch, I recommend you check out my separate video just on that very update, because there's significantly more to talk about than what we can cover in today's video. But to give you a brief overview, of course, we have the big and controversial time to kill changes. There's been a drastic reduction in the amount of damage, both in close quarter and more so even at long range and medium range, that assault rifles, SMGs, semi-autos, MMGs, LMGs, and even to a lesser extent, SLRs and shotguns can actually put out. Bolt-action rifles, anti-material rifles, and of course, bolt-action carbines have remained unchanged. Expect a guide on those carbines actually sometime early next week. They are definitely some of the best weapons now currently in the game. As regards the community feedback though, and my personal opinion on these changes, we'll get into that a little bit later on in the video where we get into the community view on this update. As regards the spotting changes, another important part of this patch, they now provide you both with the information as to when you are spotted and, personally for the individual player, highlight enemies visible to you within certain distances. Much like the time to kill changes, of course, these are very much on the controversial side of things. As regards the last major pillar of this update, the vehicle balance changes, once more I have an entire video dedicated to those. Feel free to check that out if you're interested. But essentially what it boils down to is that tanks are a little bit harder for infantry to take out. Some of the gadgets, that is the anti-tank gadgets, have had their roles slightly adjusted, more for example focused on demobilizing tanks instead of straight up taking them out. That applies for example to the mines, and overall tank versus tank damage has been slightly adjusted, balanced to make some of the tanks less dominant when it comes to vehicle on vehicle combat. Further to that, of course, this week we have week 6 of chapter 5 in the tug of war assignment, which mostly features infantry focused tasks that reward you with a tier unlock for your chapter 5 Tides of War progression. The way this essentially works is you skip forward one level in the reward section of Tides of War. Thus, if you had, say for example, 20,000 XP on your way to the level 20 reward, you will now simply have 20,000 XP on your way to the level 21 reward. I believe this actually doesn't affect your actual level, instead just the reward ranking. Therefore, if you want to get the bronze, silver or gold dog tags for this chapter, you will actually still have to complete the full XP amount, no matter if you actually complete this week's Tides of War mission. As regards limited time game modes or playlists this week, we have of course Frontlines available on some additional maps this week than we had previously. Specifically, you can now play it on Devastation, Aerodom, Rotterdam, Narvik, Twisted Steel, Alcindon, Mercury, Arras and Merita. It should be noted however, much like always, this game mode will only be available, as it stands right now, until next Thursday. Speaking then of next week and next Thursday, there's quite a bit coming to Battlefield 5. First of all, Tides of War Chapter 5 Week 7 features mostly support-focused tasks in the See the World assignment and will of course allow you to unlock the BAR M1918A2 as LMG for the support class. If you complete one of these side missions specifically, you will actually also get an additional reward in the Unexpected Gift Epic Melee Weapon, essentially a Christmas-themed baseball bat. To go alongside that, we have a new map coming next week. On Thursday the 12th, we'll be getting our hands on Wake Island. Now, plentiful information on this map has already been made available, but just today, DICE also launched the trailer for the new map, giving us a proper insight as to what to specifically expect. It looks to be significantly bigger than the original, but with plentiful elevation changes and vegetation to make for significant cover and a variety of engagement distances. Besides the addition of crabs in the trailer, there seems to also be a teaser at the end to the Solomon Island map, which is of course a long rumored and data mined 4th Pacific map expected to come sometime early next year. At the beginning of next week, before even Wake Island, there's another big feature launching for Battlefield 5 however, in community games. Set to launch December the 9th, this coming Monday, we got proper details on what to expect from this feature this Friday. As it stands now, community games will allow players to create server configurations where they can choose the game mode, map, pre-round player count, and how many rounds should be played. Servers can be password protected, but that will result in no progression from the round actually counting. Further, non-password protected servers will allow you to rank up, but in turn not enable the weekly Tides of War assignments or chapter XP for your chapter rank to be gained. In my personal opinion, that's a massive mistake and will result in very few players actually playing on community games servers. Some of the other features that players had expected or DICE had even listed as in the works, such as custom names and descriptions, control over what classes, weapons or vehicles are allowed, friendly fire options, squad leader only spawning, ticket and damage scaling, moderators, VIP roles, and frankly a lot more. You'll find all the details of course in the community post linked down below, won't be coming with this iteration of community games. DICE will be providing us with an update on the continued development of this feature in the new year, but until then, at least personally, I'm somewhat disappointed because the whole point, to me at least, for RSP or community games is that we can rent a permanent server where we have full control over how the game works and also where we can level up our character and get chapter XP. Otherwise, what's really the point if I have to choose between in-game progression and having a good time on my preferred maps or preferred game modes? In our always popular soon-to-M category of news, as most of you will know, there's been some weapons added as part of the 5.2 update, set to still launch as part of Chapter 5. And thanks to them now being added to the game, though of course not yet available, we actually know what they now look like. So shout out to Battlefield Bulletin for getting these screenshots from the testing range as regards the Nambu Type 2A SMG, the M3 Grease Gun, and of course the Type 97 LMG. Intemporeal goodness, as always of course, to be taken with a generous helping of salt, given the data mining origins of the provided informations. Things are slightly quieter this week. Likely of course there will be more to report next week once the good man has had some time to properly go through all of the details added with update 5.2, but what we do have this week are a few cosmetic sets, currently without any obvious ties as to when or with which chapter they will launch, but nevertheless at least of some interest. Then over to our community news, an increasingly salty section of these This Week on the Battlefield episodes. The rage about the time to kill changes, of course, very much on the forums, Reddit, Twitter and YouTube, continues. And while there are absolutely supporters who enjoy the new time to kill or believe it is at least an improvement over the past, but just needs some further tweaking, as far as I've been able to tell in any one of the forums, in any one of the communities, it seems like the majority disagrees with DICE on these changes. Many have a problem not only with the changes themselves, but also that DICE made assurances that this wasn't a time to kill downgrade, and we now frankly finally have the truth as to that matter, which shows that that was very much untrue. For my part, I'm currently not really playing any Battlefield 5. I've of course tried the patch in quite a bit of detail and personally just simply don't like it. And hence, that's why today's gameplay is actually all pre-patch. So you won't be able to down people as fast as I am with the M1907 SF anymore. Personally, as to my opinion of the patch, I think the changes have made most guns feel pretty weak and unsatisfying. There's some clear imbalances between classes now. There's zerging and camping problems, and those things have massively increased. And frankly, there's little hope of successfully taking on multiple targets in quick succession or successfully flanking multiple players. That's pretty much all gone out the window. That of course is my opinion, so feel free to leave your own thoughts down below in the comments. Besides of course the unpopular time to kill changes and of course spotting changes, I predict that the community is not going to be too happy with the very limited community games options we're getting, but it remains to be seen as to how the community reacts on that. The last piece of information I want to point out today, and this is a positive note to end on, is that these changes very much are not set in stone. I questioned Part Welsh, a community manager for Battlefield 5, as to whether a complete reversal of these time to kill changes was even on the table, even possible, and he confirmed that while there is absolutely no decision yet as to how to proceed and whether these changes have resulted in the desired effects, there very much isn't any limit on what DICE is going to do to change things if things don't go the way they want. So there is a slim but still existing possibility that maybe these time to kill changes, alongside some of the other unpopular parts of this update, get retracted at a later date. While usually, of course, next up would be the only in Battlefield moments, regrettably, this week I didn't have enough time quite to complete those, and thus you'll have to wait for next week's episode to see some ridiculous clips once more as part of this show. But with that, of course, we're coming to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed the show, find it interesting or entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share, and of course hit me up with your feedback, suggestions, and opinions down below in the comments or over on Twitter. With all that being said, however, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you in the next episode this week on the Battlefield.